was about 15 minutes. I went, so I'm just join whenever you can.
Great stuff. Well, morning everybody. We've got quite a few of you on. There are 2 or 3 that are just sending apologies. They're going to be a few minutes late, but I think given that we've got a really tight timeline, would you tell them where to go? Given that we've got a really tight timeline to try and get this done in an effective manner and get everybody set off with some real 90-day plans, we are going to kick off and get stuck into this. There's a million things going through my head, as I'm sure there are a million things going through yours right now. Lots and lots of different ways that we can view the world out there today. And I think the one thing that I would like to stress for everybody is that this is a time really for positivity, as much positivity as you can possibly bring at a time when things are obviously quite tough. I don't know what you all think of what our friend Boris Johnson's doing every day with his press conference, but I think that's aiming to build positivity, and I think personally he's doing a good job of it so far. We'll see what the end results are, but that's really what this is all about. So massive challenge going on. We're going to spend a little bit of time just looking at some of the challenges this brings, some of the opportunities it brings, and then what it is we need to do from a planning point of view to get you through the next 3 months in the state in which you would like to be seen. So really, really important that we get that plan nailed. There's a brand new planning document which everybody should have access to, which is a multi-tab Excel file. We'll talk about that in some detail. Obviously, normally we'd be writing this in workbooks, but difficult to do remotely. And so we're going to use that planning workbook to do all of that work. If you haven't got access to that planning workbook, you haven't seen it, just drop Jo a quick email and she'll give you access to the Dropbox folder where all those documents are stored. So just for reference, the documents I've been WhatsApping and mailing about in the last few days are stored in a folder called Crisis Management or something similar. There's a separate folder in the same Dropbox which is called 90-Day Planning or GrowthClub or something similar to that. If you can't find it, drop Jo an email and we'll get it ready for you for the break. Okay, so lots of stuff to go through. So we'll crack on if everybody's good with that. And the first thing, obviously, is this is 3 hours online. You're not in the same room. You're not locked away. I know you're going to have distractions at home, at the office, whatever else. I would encourage you, if you can, to turn your phone off, put it on silent. Shut down your iPad, whatever else might be distracting you away from the focus on this. I want to get 3 hours of really good, solid work in here so that you've got a plan that we can work on over the next 3 months. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So no distractions is a great thing to try to achieve. Okay, so what are we going to do? First and foremost, after we get through this by 12 o'clock, I'm hoping, expecting that you'll have the basis of your plans written. And after that, this afternoon, I've got multiple 10-minute slots available for everybody. So if you want to have a chat, talk about the plan, talk about any mindset issues or challenges you've got around achieving your plan and what that might look like, then obviously just book that in again, drop Jo a message and she'll put you in the calendar and we'll talk this afternoon. This line will stay open until 12, probably a little bit longer than that. So again, if you want to chat in some more detail, then we'll aim to do that. So what are we going to go through this morning? So a brief intro. We're going to talk about the 11 steps to avoiding panic. Panic to planning is the title of the 11 steps presentation. We're going to talk about the opportunity to pivot your business, a little bit on mindset, what the mindset needs to look like to get through this phase. Howard, I think your microphone is still on. I can see the red. That's it. Well done. Thanks, Howard. Mindset. We're going to look at the planning document, what that looks like. Quick break for coffee, and then get straight into the 90-day plans. Personal and business. Critical at this time, I think, that we spend a little bit of time focusing on what the personal plans are. And some of that is around the mindset. Some of that is around the way that you're going to be thinking about things outside of work, and then obviously the business goals as well. 11:45, so that's an hour to get those plans done, and I'll break that down into a little bit more detail for you so you can see what that looks like. It's eminently achievable given where we are. 11:45 default diary, 11:50 cash flow, and by 12 o'clock we'll be at the end of that planning document. There will still be some work, I'm sure, for you to do after that, but the basis of that planning document is going to form the basis for the coaching going forward. So I want you to work really hard on making sure you've got as much detail in there as you can to allow us to do a good job with that. So just bear me 1 second. Somebody's knocking to get in. Let's let them in. There we go. So I'm hoping to launch a little poll here for you all. Hopefully you'll get to see this. So on your screen right now, there is a question. How much of a panic has the current coronavirus pandemic created in your business? More than I can express, absolutely none. What pandemic? If you can all vote on that, you should be able to see it on your screen. You should be able to vote on it. I will let you know what the results like. Makes sense? Hopefully everybody can see that. Somebody's not got their microphone paused. I heard a big sigh there from somebody. Is that Alex?
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex.
I can see a survey on a screen, but I can't see the survey.
You can see the poll on your screen, but you can't see.
Well, it's survey on a screen, so your image, but I can't see an actual survey.
Are you viewing the presentation? Can you see the presentation?
Well, that's what I mean. I can see the presentation slide, yes.
So on the control bar, can you see a thing called polling? Is there an instruction, a box called polling?
Not that I can see.
No?
Same here. I can't see a poll.
Okay, park that for a moment. I'll come back to that in a few moments. So it's clear on my screen, so I'm not quite sure why you guys can't see it, but we'll come back to that in a moment. So I was just trying to take a bit of a temperature as to what the challenge is currently. We've got a few questions coming in. Can't see the poll, can't see the poll. Okay, so ignore the poll for the moment. We'll come back to that. I'll give that a poke at the coffee break and we'll get that back up on the screen. Okay, so panic to plan is what we're going to talk about now. So this document has been circulated with an action coach for the last few days. I've presented it on a couple of webinars already. If you've seen some of that information, then obviously great. If you haven't, the purpose of this is 20-25 minutes for us to just talk through the 11 things that you need to do from a business perspective to make sure that you are going to survive the current pandemic crisis by going from panic to plan. So what are the things we need to worry about? Step 1 of 11, communicate. So what's critical here, and I've seen this with a whole bunch of clients. I've seen probably 15 or 20 clients in the last week, and we've had many conversations about what it is they do, what the message is that they give out to their suppliers and customers. And it's critical that you have a strategy to make sure that the message you're giving to your team, to your customers, to your networks, to your suppliers and stakeholders, and your community is cohesive, that it is delivering the message that you want to get out there. So you're in a food manufacturing business. What is the message that you want to give to your team, your customers, your suppliers and stakeholders, and to the broader community? You want to make sure that you're talking about how well protected your guys are, how everybody washes their hands every 5 minutes, how every surface is disinfected, and so on and so forth. Make sure you're clear that you're taking every precaution, A, to prevent it spreading within your work premises, but B, to make sure that you're preventing it from spreading elsewhere in the broader community. You want to have enough confidence from your customers, your community, and your suppliers and stakeholders that you are taking all the precautions to continue your business as unfettered as it can possibly be, given the current crisis. So communication strategy, massively important. If you haven't thought about it, it's not overly complicated. Again, I'm happy to work with you on what that might look like, but really, really important that on social media, on LinkedIn, on your email blasts, on your website, you talk about how you are maintaining the right strategy to prevent infection of anybody else and everything within your workplace. So step 2, we talked about this a little bit right at the beginning, which is be positive. So it is massively, massively important that we put a positive spin on this. You know, there are plenty of doom and gloom mongers out there, the media in particular, always reporting all of the negatives. Nowhere in the national press have I seen that Apple has reopened all 42 stores in China. That tells you that you know, they're reaching the end of their crisis period and that people are back on the streets and people are back shopping again. So why has that not been reported in the national press, along with all of the other, you know, lack of ventilators and everything else that just promotes negativity? So I think it's really important at this time that we're as positive as we possibly can. And of course, out of every crisis comes opportunity. So this is a great JFK quote. The Chinese use 2 brush strokes to write the word crisis, 1 stroke for danger, the other for opportunity. In every crisis, there is always both danger and opportunity. And you only have to look back to the kind of, you know, wartime mentality and all the stories you hear about the successes and everything that came out of that to know that out of adversity, there is always an opportunity to do something else. So positivity, hugely important. Panic and worry doesn't help. And I know that's really easy to say, but putting a positive spin on everything helps to reduce the amount of panic and worry. And look for every small win. Every single thing that you achieve as a positive step forward right now is really, really important to put the right perspective on what is, you know, as we all said right at the beginning, is something of a national crisis, global crisis. How can I do things differently? How can I sell toilet paper? You know, be positive. How can I do things in a different way? And we'll talk about pivoting and the opportunity to pivot the business a little bit later on. Sometimes less news is better. I don't know about everybody on the call. There's quite a few of you on now. It's much easier for me if I turn off the news. I don't want to see all of the bad news that's coming in. I'll watch 2 or 3 things during the day, and then maybe I'll go and do a bit of research on the internet to try to ascertain what I think is the right level of news, as opposed to the stuff that comes out in the, you know, trash newspapers and all over the less positive media. So being positive, critically important. And out of all of that, if you've got a team, leading your people at this time is crucial. And this is the time that the leaders always pop out within organizations. Those that are able to maintain focus and direction and positivity, really, really key to make sure that everybody is behind you as a business owner. So step 3, know the cycles. All of you are aware, I'm sure, that, you know, business goes through a 7 to 10 year cycle. It's up for 4 or 5 years. It starts to tip down the other side, and every 7 years or so, there's this business cycle, which is, you know, usually a pretty chaotic time for everybody. So 2008, 2009, so what's that, 10-ish years ago, financial crisis obviously lasted a few years. This one is the current crisis, which is going to provide obviously some economic challenges for everybody. But it's important to recognize that, you know, there are 4 seasons in the year. There are 4 seasons within the business cycles. Summer, when things start to grow; fall, when the leaves start to fall off; winter, when things are a bit grim; and then spring, as business starts to pick up again. And that cycle is pretty much every 7 to 10 years. If you backtrack through the last 50 years, you'll see that follows a pretty good pattern. So every 7 to 10 years. So just recognize that after the winter we're going through now, there is a spring. There is a spring. It will come. Bit of positivity, some planning. We need to figure that out, and then we can look forward to the green shoots growing in the early part of, hopefully in the early part of summer for us in the UK. So step 4, change. Great quote that, the only constant in life is change. Absolutely true. I'm sure you all recognize that things change every day, every week, every month, every year. You make a plan, but it's a straight line, and the plan ends up being a wavy line. You know, nothing ever goes according to plan 100%, and that's because the only constant in life is change. So get ahead. That's the key. Planning, write your plan, make sure that you know where you're going, and lead the change. Crucial crucial piece of work that needs to be done right now to get us through the next 3 months and to get us out the other side in good shape. D times V plus F overcomes R. So those of you that are coached by me on a regular basis will have come across this at some point. Dissatisfaction times vision plus first steps overcomes resistance. Quite a simple formula, but if you think about that, I'm unhappy. Here's my plan. Here's the actions that I take as the result of that plan, and that overcomes resistance and helps to create change. So that's a really simple way, I think, to look at it whenever you've got a problem. So here's my problem, that's the D. Here's what I'm going to do to fix it, that's the V, the vision. Here's the action plan to get that moving, and that overcomes any resistance that there might have been previously in that 3:30 in the morning worry, headache, nightmare that many of us have at times during our business careers. And then obviously in terms of change, you've got to think about products. What products do I make? What services do I provide? What does my pricing look like? How is my delivery going to be impacted? What are my staffing requirements? Do I need to reduce my staff? Do I need to put them on short time? Do I need to implement the layoff clause in my contracts? Do I need to change the way I package my products? Do I need to offer a different service at a time when the world doesn't look quite the same as it did even a few weeks ago? Does my pricing strategy need to look different? Can I offer people early settlement discounts? There's all sorts of things in here that could be really interesting. And if I just pick on one or two locally that I've seen, local pubs and restaurants suddenly offering a delivery service for the food that they would normally provide in their restaurants. Delivery to your door at what looks like a very attractive pricing. There's a couple of pubs down in Berkhamsted that have been offering that, and there's a local pub chain here that are doing a similar kind of thing. So changing your business model to suit the current circumstances, really important. And we'll talk about pivoting a little bit later on when we get to that stage. Changing even the whole business, right? So some businesses that I'm working with have got to change their entire business model. There is no business right now, particularly if you look in the kind of event space. That world is looking really challenging. There's a whole business model change that's required there to make sure that they're able to survive. And that's the whole point, right? So sometimes you've got to break it. Sometimes you've got to break what you're doing and change it completely and go off in a different direction. That's the pivot piece that we're going to focus on in a short while. So that's 4 steps. Step 5, I have recommended to everybody I work with that they don't wait. Don't wait to make the changes. Don't wait to cut back. Don't wait to lay off staff if that's what's required. Don't wait to cut the budget for something which is perhaps a little bit of a luxury. Don't wait. Cost cutting is the top priority in a crisis. So, you cut your cost, you change the shape of your business, and we come out of this much sooner than expected. What's the worst possible situation? Well, actually, when you look at that, that's the best possible situation, because now you're leaner and more efficient as the spring starts to arrive and things pick up again. So you've got to minimize the negative long-term repercussions of not moving quickly. And I think that's absolutely key. So in some of the documents we've provided to everybody in the last week, there is advice on HMRC, PAYE, national insurance, VAT, acquiring short-term loans. You've seen the great news that's come out of the government currently in terms of small business rates relief and business interruption loans and so on and so forth. All of those things are available in various forms to most businesses in the UK. The ones we care about, the ones I care about, are my customers, the SMEs, 700,000 of them in the UK. The vast majority of those have got access to funding now in order to help allay some of the challenges and some of the fears. So crucially, cash is king. Keep it in your bank account. Don't spend it if you don't have to, because that's your insurance for what happens if this goes on longer than we anticipate. Stop spending where you don't have to. Keep it in your bank account. Where can you reduce your outlays on a day-to-day basis? Stop it. Keep it in your bank account. Renegotiate. finance leases, renegotiate the terms for loans, renegotiate the terms for rent on the premises you're in, renegotiate everything you possibly can, and do it today. Don't leave it until next week, because next week we might be on 100% lockdown. We don't know what's going to happen over the next week or two. So renegotiate now wherever you possibly can. And if you think that's going to be difficult, doesn't matter. Go do it. Have the conversation. What's the worst somebody can say right now? The worst they can say is, no, I'm sorry, we can't accommodate that. I have a client just the other side of Tring who has managed to renegotiate pretty much everything. Rent, rates on the building. He's renegotiated his finance loans and saved himself about £30,000 a month in renegotiating all of this stuff. And that will only last 3 months, but we hope that's enough to get through the crisis and then move forward. So it can be done. Worst case is you slow things down or you postpone them. As I just said there, postpone those payments, postpone those loan repayments or whatever else you can. HMRC, from a VAT point of view, right now, there's a 2-month holiday available in terms of delay in paying your VAT. So, but you have to ask. Cut back, but don't cut back on marketing and sales. Your marketing and sales efforts must continue, but the message that you're giving out has to change, which goes back to the first slide, which is communication and how you communicate those messages out. So that's step 5. Step 6, extending credit. So this is a lovely Bob Hope quote. A bank is a place that will lend you money if you can prove you don't need it. Get it now while they're still lending. So if you think there's an opportunity, if you think there's going to be a need in 60 days time for some cash, get it now. Don't wait. Go ask the questions, improve your credit lines, look at your credit cards, refinance if you have to, but do it today whilst the banks are still loaning money, whilst there's still some momentum in the marketplace, because that could get worse over the next few weeks. Find the lowest rates available. Talk to HMRC and talk to the banks, as I said a few minutes ago. Staffing cuts and changes. Nobody wants to lay off any staff. Absolutely not. You need to keep your critical staff, but you need to just review your business and look at it from a practical point of view. A couple of smaller businesses that I work with where they've got some part-time staff, do they want to remove those people? No, they don't, but they want to reduce their hours. The staff understand there's a crisis going on, and so that conversation is really important in terms of making sure that everybody is on the same page. Cut back on hours, spreading the available work amongst more employees. All of these things are possible. A couple of businesses I work with have gone to a 4-day week. One of them's gone to a 2-day week. He's a printer. He thinks they can cope with all of the incoming work, which is reduced massively in 2 days. So for 2 months, they've stepped down to a 2-day week, but the staff have kept their jobs, and that helps them, obviously, when we reach springtime and things start to pick up again. Sometimes you just have to make changes. Pay cuts, obviously, one of those things that have been discussed by a number of companies in all sorts of environments. Bonus programs for executives, another one that's been cut in. I've got a very large company that I work with 250 employees. All of their leadership team have all had their bonuses suspended because the company needs to preserve their cash. Plan your work from home. The option to work from home is coming in anyway. I think we all knew that. This has accelerated, the current crisis has accelerated the requirement for people to work from home, given the current social circle or social spacing instruction that's come from the government. And so how do you make sure that you implement that? Is the technology in place that you need to do that? Meetings and reporting. Are they in place? How do you keep people motivated when they're working from home, for example, is a great question. What does customer service look like? If you have goods being returned that need to be repaired, can that be done from home, or do you have to have a lone wolf in the office who's repairing those things in order to get them turned around and sent back out? Banking and mail can all be rerouted or is online. Again, communication, how does that work? Does everybody have access to the company telephone system if they're working from home? Can they be forwarded to mobiles? All of those thoughts need to be gone through in order to make sure that we can come out of the other side of this with everything working as it should. It may be weeks or months. You listened to the Boris Roadshow last night on the news. 12 weeks. He thinks that we'll be able to beat this in 12 weeks if the general population obeys the rules, which are stay indoors, don't go out if you don't have to, semi-isolation, I guess you'd probably call it, as much as possible. So it may be weeks, it may be months before we're through this. So make sure that your staff have got the ability to work from home. Okay, so online or delivery. So this is a little bit, again, back to the kind of, can we pivot part of our business? Can we make some changes that are going to help us? This is a US pharmacy business that are waiving all delivery fees for prescription drugs due to the coronavirus outbreak. There have been lots of other examples of companies doing this. As I mentioned earlier on, some of the local pubs and restaurant chains are in a position where they're offering deliveries of food now. So the chefs are still employed, they're still producing food, there's still some revenue coming in, and they're able to keep their customers happy by delivery. So could you add delivery as a service? Is there an online option or telephone delivery? Do you need to change what the staff are doing? People won't come to you anymore. Can you go to them? Really important thing to consider. How do you package that? How do you price that? What does that look like? And how do you communicate that to customers? Again, critical piece. So social media and local social community work these days, I think, massively important to get your message out. We are still in business. There's a company across the road from us who do fancy goods. They are pushing very hard on the local community networks that their products are available for home delivery. Online catalogue, phone up your order, and somebody will drop it at your door. What a great thing to do. So communicating that message out, again, critically important. Okay, so step 10, marketing and sales. I love this quote. I don't know who Stuart Britt is, but somebody mentioned this the other day. So for a business not to advertise is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. And I think that's absolutely right. So in times of trouble, like now, you need to be clear on your communication, but you need to be advertising what it is you do, whether that's on social media or whether that's in other ways, to make sure that people are aware of the goods and services that you offer. So keep on marketing. Increase the amount of marketing that you're doing, not decrease it. Turn it from generalized marketing about your business into specific marketing about your products or service, and make sure that that is being hammered home to your potential customer base. As you probably guess right now, advertising space has come down massively in price. You can get space on billboards and space in magazines and things at a really aggressive rate. Now, you might argue it's not the right time to be doing that, but the whole point of this is there are negotiations available on rates that would normally perhaps be out of reach for many of us. Create new offers yourself and make those aggressively priced in order to be able to pull in new customers. And measure your 5 ways. So if you're a client of mine, you've been through this process where we talk about the 5 ways. So how many leads in the sales funnel at the top and how many pounds fall out the bottom of the sales funnel, and the calculations in between. Measuring your 5 ways now is more important than ever. Out of crisis, your 5 ways is one thing. Within a crisis, your 5 ways is a different thing. You may retain the same number of leads at the top, but you're not going to convert as many. You need to do more marketing to put more leads in the top of the funnel to make sure the revenue comes out the bottom of the sales funnel. If that's confusing or you haven't come across that before, or you need a bit of an explanation, happy to talk about how that works and what the detail looks like. So step 10, get cash up front. So in terms of sales, rather than giving 30, 60, 90 days credit to whoever it is you're dealing with, get cash up front. Ask for it. Ask for 50% down. Ask for the cash whilst you need it. And if it's a larger business that you're dealing with, typically they'll have some cash reserves. They may be prepared to pay cash up front for a discount. So think about all of the different ways that you can do this. The norm that you knew 4 weeks ago is not the norm any longer. You've got to think about this in a different way in terms of generating revenue, advertising your business, etc. Okay, never has it been more important to have raving fans for your business, to have people wanting to come back to you because you are the best at what you do. So every contact you have with a customer influences whether or not they come back. Perfect customer service, perfect execution, perfect telephone answering service, perfect restaurant service, perfect whatever it might be. Existing customers, those that you've won in the past and spent money to win, are the best customers you'll ever have. How do you make sure that they don't drift away during the times of crisis? Part of that's communication, right? Slide 1 or step 1, communication. Make sure you're telling them what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you can help them, and make sure that those existing customers are retained, because they are, as I said, the best customers that you're ever likely to have. An opportunity to create deals just for those customers. An opportunity to do bulk buys, again, take cash up front from those customers to give them some kind of preferential service or some kind of preferential credits. Keep those customers at all costs. Almost doesn't matter what you do, because when we get to the springtime and the summertime and business is starting to pick up again, they're going to be the first people that come back to you to place those first orders that you see as the green shoots start to reappear. So think really hard about how you do that and how you keep them at all costs. And as I said, communication, communication, communication. If you forget to tell everybody how great you are, they're going to forget how great you are. And as always, the 80-20 rule applies. 20% of your customers probably provide 80% of your revenue or 80% of your profit. Those are the guys that you want to be looking after. Those are the guys you want to retain. The bigger customers, the ones that have always historically paid their bills on time, the ones who theoretically perhaps have a better credit history, are a stronger business, those are the ones that you need to schmooze and make sure that they are your raving fans. I had a client in yesterday, or a prospective client in yesterday, who does a lot of work for big retailers, so River Island, those sort of companies. You know, the question is, do you want to be producing work for those on lengthy credit terms right now? The answer to that probably is not. And the reason for that is retail is going to be one of the most challenged parts of the business world. I think when we come out of this, it was already challenged going into it, but coming out the other side. So you've got to do the best job you possibly can of keeping those customers who pay the bulk of your bills. Now, I said 11 steps, but there are, of course, there's always one extra. So this is an extra slide here, step 12, common sense and compassion. I've spoken to lots and lots of different companies in the last 2 weeks, probably over 100 businesses, about lots of different things, mostly about the panic that they feel. What do I do? How do I do that? I was lucky enough to talk to a jeweler yesterday, in fact, you know, who's seen his business drop off a cliff. Nobody wants to spend £2,000 on a diamond ring right now, do they? Well, actually, that's not strictly true. There are people who are getting married in a few months' time who will spend that money. But how do you target those? How do you get to those? So a bit of common sense needs to be applied. Setting realistic customer expectations and then exceeding them is what you've got to do right now. Again, that's a little bit related to slide 11, but the common sense piece. So over-deliver on customer service. Clean everything that you use. Clean the door handles, clean the desks, clean the whatever. Don't touch if you don't have to. Provide hand sanitizer where you can, if you can get that. And I've got a slide in a few moments that hopefully will make you smile. Put people first. A bit of time for community now, a bit of time for compassion. Are your neighbours okay? Are the business down the road okay? You know, can you help anybody in a situation where you're fit and healthy and hopefully, you know, you've still got some revenue coming into the business? Be nice and take a chill pill. Relax a little bit. This is just another crisis, right? I know it feels like it's critical, but there are always ways around this. And if there was a better time to have a business coach, I can't possibly think of one. Another person to look at your business from an oblique angle and help you to see what the potential outcome could be were you to do things differently. Oh, and lastly, of course, don't buy too much toilet paper. So that's a pretty fast run through the 11 steps. or 12 steps because there's an extra one in there, but 11 steps your business needs to prepare for the coronavirus economic panic. If you've made notes, they're great. If you haven't made notes, we'll share the slide deck afterwards so that you've all got access to it. Okay, so remember at the end of this session after 12 o'clock, if you need 10 minutes, drop a message to Jo. She'll put you in the diary and we can have a catch up on whichever part of this you want to. Obviously, the planning piece is going to be really important. So we're a couple of minutes ahead of schedule, which is not a bad thing. So I want to talk a little bit about pivoting your business, about the opportunity to pivot. It may not be the whole business, may just be part of your business, or might just be a service that you're running, and what that might potentially look like. So what do I mean by pivot? Great Winston Churchill quote, "To improve is the change, to be perfect." Oops, daisy. I managed to lose the entire presentation now, that's not handy, is it? To be perfect is to change often, a Winston Churchill quote. And this is the description that I use to describe what pivoting actually means. So a pivot occurs when a company makes a fundamental change to their business after determining that their product isn't meeting the needs of their intended market, or they see an alternative opportunity. Can you think of a better time to be talking about pivoting your business? Lots of challenges. How appropriate is the product you've got today to meet the needs of the market that has changed so dramatically in the space of 4 weeks? Is there an opportunity to look at your business differently, your service differently, your team differently, the product that you produce, the service you provide, etc.? And out of that, is there an opportunity to look at sectors of the market in a different way? Jo?
Yeah.
Would you mind grabbing water?
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. So what do I mean by pivoting a business? The easiest analogy I can use this the other day, is a bit like a basketball player, right? You're running down the court with the ball, somebody comes into attack, and you plant one foot and you turn and you pass the ball. That's a pivot. So think about your business. Think about what alternatives there are for the product that you deliver or the service that you deliver. Is the product that you produce fit for purpose? Today, on the 20th of March, it might have been a month ago on the 20th of February, but what can I do to change that? What can I do from a messaging point of view to change that? What can I do from a communications point of view? What can I do from a manufacturing point of view, from a service point of view, from a stock point of view? I mean, just think about that in terms of how many different alternatives there are for that delivery or service. So there are a couple of latecomers just joined. Guys, if you wouldn't mind just pressing the mute button so there's no interference coming through. Thank you, Angus, that's great. So pivoting your business, so what do I mean? So what alternatives are there for delivery or service? Is there a secondary market for your product or service? And I think that's, again, a really important thing to think about. Is there somewhere else that you can additionally sell your products or services now that wasn't there 4 weeks ago, that wasn't visible 4 weeks ago? So think about secondary marketing opportunities that there might be. Is there an alliance you can create with another local business? Pub, restaurant wants to deliver their food, local delivery company wants to make sure it can deliver stuff. Is there an alliance those two can form to make sure that they can provide a second to none delivery service in the local area for cooked food or whatever? So is there somebody else that you can work with to create an opportunity for you and another business to be able to thrive and survive? I'm sure if you think about all the other businesses that there is potential for, and you look at the products and services you deliver in a particular way, often there's an opportunity to bolt those two things together. And you might not have wanted to do that commercially 4 weeks ago, but the world looks different. on March the 20th than it did on February the 20th. And so we've got to make sure that we have a business and an offering that is fit for purpose as it is today. So pivot, how far dare I pivot my business? And can we provide an alternative product or service with the same resources? So again, if I'm producing and selling this product or service today, is there an alternative I can squeeze out of that would make sense for me in order to be able to offer an alternative revenue stream for my business and an alternative product or service for somebody else? And I've got a couple of examples after this that I can show you, which hopefully will make that a little bit clearer in terms of my explanation. So hopefully that principle of pivoting is absolutely clear. What alternatives are there for your delivery or service? Is there a secondary market for your products? Is there an alliance you can create with another company? And can we provide an alternative product or service with the same resources? So this is a client of mine who does commercial window cleaning. This is a snapshot of what was on their homepage until about 7 days ago. So commercial window cleaning, it explains what they do. There's a button to click to get more details, etc., etc. And as of yesterday, this is their homepage. So naturally, it's a cleaning company. Naturally, there's an opportunity here, but he has pivoted 50% of his team that was focused on window cleaning because those buildings are on lockdown. Those big buildings, Winchester University, those kind of things are on lockdown. Nobody's allowed to go inside the buildings or outside the buildings. So he suddenly saw half of his business disappear. So in the last 7 days, we've been out and scoped what it is that's required to do deep cleaning. He's been out and ordered all the kit. He's trained his guys, and they are now contracted for 4 or 5 in the local area, deep cleans in large buildings, where the staff were sent home because somebody had contracted or felt unwell, and they thought there was a coronavirus problem in there, and so they had to lock the building. So these guys have pivoted their business from window cleaning, grounds maintenance, gritting, and the basic stuff into a business that is doing deep cleaning. And I think that's a long-term business now, a business opportunity given where we are. So that's a great example of how you can, in 7 days, pivot your business and focus on a big open opportunity. Now, as I said, they're in cleaning, right? So that was a relatively obvious one. There's a third one which they've come up with now, which is they're now offering cleaning, deep cleaning services or cleaning services for cabs, where the driver changes in the cab, airline pilots, where the pilots are changing in the pilot of the aircraft, and so on and so forth. So again, a bit of lateral thinking about where you might go in order to add some revenue streams, alternative revenue streams to where you've been historically. A brewery business, Scottish brewery business, based up in Ellen, in the middle of nowhere, do a great job of producing custom beer, fabulous beer, Brewdog. They have pivoted their business because their sales have gone down the pan, as you can imagine, and they are now producing Brewdog hand sanitizer. There's a national shortage, as I'm sure you know, and so they've taken that alcohol-based production system that they had, and they're now producing this hand sanitizer. I forget what the ratios are, but 70% a particular kind of spirit that they use with a chemical in it, which allows them to produce what they now call brew gel. And I think that'll be a long-term thing. What's interesting about this pivot is these guys are giving away this to lots and lots of places where it's required, community, elderly care homes, all those kind of things. So really interesting pivot there from Brewdog. And one of the last ones is a little bit longer term in terms of pivot. But for those of you that have heard of Slack, it's a great larger business typically, or multi-site communication tool that allows you to do you know, sending of files, sharing of video, and a whole bunch of other things. So Slack was a failed video game business called Glitch. In the process of creating this video game venture, they managed to create a means of communication that was then pivoted and turned into this product that's out there on the marketplace now called Slack. And they went from a zero valuation 10 years ago to a $4 billion valuation as of today. Took their technology, pivoted it, and created something different out of that. And the end result, as you can see, is a significant business with an enormous valuation attached to it. So pivoting your business, I think, again, is you know, is critical. How do we do it? What are the opportunities? Are there any strategic alliances we can form? This is a time to be positive and look for the opportunities, as we talked about a little while ago. And if you can do that, then I absolutely and totally think there is a great opportunity to continue to generate revenue in a time when people aren't necessarily willing to spend what they did previously. So that's the pivot element of it. I'd just like you all to just take 5 minutes now, grab your pen and paper, and write down 3 ways that you think you could potentially pivot your business as it is. So a little bit of live work there, and we'll give you. It's now 10:02, so we'll give you 3 minutes. So at 7 minutes to, I'll move on to the next slide. I would play some music, but that's a little bit difficult to do from here. So grab your pen and paper. 3 alternative ways you could potentially pivot your business. And thinking about that, when we get to the next phase of this, where you're going to write your plan, if you can come up with 3 great alternative ways to do this, could they then become part of your 90-day plan? Great. I'll be quiet for 3 minutes. Right, if any of you have got something something interesting, if you pop them in the chat window. We've got a couple coming in from Dan. And Alex, that's an interesting one. So Dan and Alex run a pub and a cocktail, mobile cocktail bar business. And so they have bottled cocktails for delivery. Now, if I'd known that yesterday, I would have had a couple of those. Takeaway food, really cool. And takeaway draft beer. Online cocktail tutoring. Very cool. Anybody else got anything interesting? Pop it in the chat window. Okay, Simon, yeah, that's cool. Moving from physical events to online events. So we're halfway through converting our office to to do online. So we've got a large camera installed now, which is what you're looking at me on. Teaching people how to make cocktails from the cupboard. So Simon's reducing the time required to produce business plans from 1 to 5 year plans to monthly and 90-day plans. Yeah, that's cool. 90-day planning, absolutely crucial right now. Yeah, thanks, Simon. I could use the Zoom button, couldn't I? How can I coach sports for kids while they all stay a sensible distance from one another outside? Yeah, that's a really key one. Yeah. So I have a PT client who is looking at how he can do continue his PT sessions without having to go to the gym, which I think is inevitably going to close given the social spacing rules that are out there. So he's built and put up a gazebo out in his garden. Put a flooring down, and he's doing his PT sessions outside, one by one, which is a great option, I think. So yeah, really interesting, Paul. Online advice service, yeah, as opposed to doing it face to face. Howard, that's cool. Taking your pub to somebody's house in order to do a hen party down. Yeah, that's very cool. I like that. They want to run it in their home as the venue they'd booked had been cancelled. Very cool. Anybody else on there got some pivoting ideas? Please share them in the chat. We'll come back to that. Okay, so so I ran through some examples there. You've obviously got some great thoughts going on here. It's a shame we're not in a big room because we could have stuck these all over the whiteboard and pinned them on the walls and shared more and more of these things. I think it's really it's a fascinating time. A number of people have said to me, a number of clients have said to me, it's so quiet now. I almost don't know what to do. Well, the answer to that is you've got a plan. The answer to that is think about things like how I pivot my business. The answer to that is get your communications, your marketing strategy just right, because now is probably the quietest time that you're going to have for the next X number of years, and probably is for the last X number of years. So take the time and use it productively. Panic to plan is kind of where we started with this. You know, and if you're in a panicked state, typically what happens is you're very unproductive. So the action of sitting down and writing a plan will enable you, I think, to get your thoughts in order and to prevent some of that panic that goes, because you can then focus on the destination that you're trying to get to. And the pivot piece of your business, pivoting your business, I think is a critical piece of that thought process, of that thinking process. Great. So I hope those 5 minutes or so were useful. We will come back to that. Again, just a reminder, if you want to talk after this, after we finish at 12-ish, hopefully we'll have the plans pretty much formed. But if you want to talk through anything, just drop Jo a message and she'll book you in the diary for this afternoon. We've got, I think, 8 calls already scheduled, so don't leave it too long if you want to talk. I'm happy to work as late as it needs to be, but you may not on a Friday. So, okay, so we're still running a couple of minutes ahead, which is fine. So what happens during times of adversity like this? You know, what do you need? I'm just going to zoom out that picture of me. It's pretty horrific. There we go. What happens? What goes on in your head? So I don't know about you, but I'm at 3:30 in the morning. Wake up and start thinking about stuff. Stuff in the middle of the night. Thinks way worse. It feels way worse than it does at 8 o'clock in the morning when it's breakfast time. So how do you prevent that? Some of that is around mindset. And so we use mindset tactics a lot as part of the kind of action coaching process. So I am statements, really, really important for a lot of people. Some people bunk them, some people really, really important. Telling yourself that you are great at what you do, that you're a great family man, you know, whatever else those I am statements might be. And my favorite one for me is I am a world-class business coach. Am I? I am, because I tell myself that every day. And then hopefully that starts to reinforce my behavior and reinforce the messaging that I'm giving out. So those kind of things really, really key. But there's loads of other stuff in here. And so I wanted to talk about 3 or 4 particular things here that are related to where we find ourselves today. So this is a beautifully illustrated graphic. It wasn't created by me. The demise curve. What happens to a business between where it is, not in trouble, sitting right at the top of the curve there, and then down at the bottom when it's in liquidation? And what is the thought process, or sorry, lack of thought process that creates that problem? So the top of the curve there, you're in trouble, but you're not aware of it. As you drop down the curve, you're in trouble, but you're in control. You've lost control, you've lost the business. So what I want to highlight here is the stages that you go through. So in trouble, but in control is the place that gets us to turn around. So down here, lost control, lost the business, that's panic. This bit up here is planning. And if you can move from panic in red to planning in yellow, then you can move to turn around in green. Hovering around in this pink area, the lost control, lost the business piece, panicking and not putting in place a plan, not looking for assistance or help or advice, is commonly what happens just before the business goes pop. Ignorance of the situation that you're in. You only have to look at some of the big examples of that, like Nokia, for example. You know, owned the world, ruled the world, were in trouble but not aware of it. Well, perhaps they were aware of it, but they didn't do anything about it. Were they ever in trouble and in control? Well, they felt like they were, but then they lost control as Apple and Samsung sales started to soar, and lo and behold, they lost the business. Turning that around was a massive requirement by them to do something positive and to create a plan to rescue the business. They left it way too late to do that. So called the demise curve. Just wanted to kind of plant that thought in your mind. There are 3 F's involved at this particular point in time, and they are as follows. This is the reaction to a crisis situation or a panic situation. And the first one of these is 3 types of people, basically. Those who take flight, disappear, run the other way. Those who freeze and can't do anything. Quite common in times of crisis, and I see it a lot in business owners. I don't know what to do. I'm stuck, so I'll just keep doing what I did before, and they're not flexible enough to change what it is they're doing. Or the middle one, which is my favorite, which is fight. So flight, freeze, or fight. If you're prepared to fight, if you're prepared to fight for the business, if you're prepared to fight for your family, if you're prepared to fight for your reputation, if you're prepared to fight for yourself, if you're prepared to fight for your bank account balance, then planning is the way to do that. Now, I have spent way too long, years, building businesses, bought businesses, sold businesses, crashed businesses, started businesses, 5 of them over the years. I don't think I ever wrote a business plan. In fact, I know I never wrote a business plan. And it's not until the last couple of years where I've really appreciated just how important that is. Working from gut instinct, not writing stuff down, feeling like you could react to anything, winging it is probably the best description of what I did over all of those years. And it's only now that I understand that without a plan, that businesses typically either never achieve the heights that they could achieve, or they fail. So, flight, freeze, or fight. In which category do you find yourself, and how do we make sure that you stay in the middle one? Write a plan. That's what today's about. Write a plan, write a 90-day plan in order to help you achieve your goals and to help you fight to keep your business where it's supposed to be. So that's the fight or flight mechanism that we all suffer from. We talk a lot about pressure in this business as well, perturbation. Some of you will have seen, and we've talked about the perturbation slide. Pressure is what creates the breakthrough that allows you to create change. This is another way of illustrating it. So this is a pressure curve. This is what happens. You can see the performance rising there, and then like the bell curve that they've been talking about for the virus. As the pressure increases, your performance decreases. So you start on the left-hand side here. Your performance is going up. The pressure starts to increase. Your performance is going up. The pressure starts to increase, and then you fall off the other side, and your performance drops massively along the way. So how do we change that? What does that look like? So the optimal performance point is right in the center here. You can see at the top of the bell curve. If we add pressure on the left-hand side, we create a problem. If we reduce pressure on the right-hand side, we relieve the problem. So from a performance point of view, get emotional, fight, pump yourself up, look in the mirror, shout at yourself, do whatever else, do some push-ups, whatever else it is you need to increase your performance. And on the other side, you've got to think about this logically. So calm down, slow down, stop, breathe, think, consider your options, and then take action. Plan and action. We're called Action Coach. We're not called Think About Coach. That's because we want you to write a plan, and then we want to help you execute on the plan. So pressure, and how important is that? And just think about it. The more the pressure increases, the lower your performance gets. What has happened over the last 4 weeks? It has applied inordinate amounts of pressure to people. And the further that pressure has gone, the lower the performance curve. Write the plan, reduce the pressure. Hope that makes sense. Oops. Yeah, just a couple of extra tabs on here. Get some fire, and then use the ice to create the plan. Calm down, slow down, stop, breathe, think. Call your action coach. Sit down together, write a plan. Okay, so this one's a really is a really interesting one, and there's a little bit of you need your pen and paper in a moment. I'm just going to ask you to rate yourself. So situational pressure is a really important one. So I've got some bills to pay tomorrow. There's no money in my bank account. I've got a staff member who's being difficult, but I really need them to perform. Lots and lots of different situations, lots of different types of pressure that you need to think about in your business on a day-to-day basis. One of the things that is massively important and carries a lot of people through is mental endurance. So how strong are you mentally? You know, how much of a challenge is what you're doing today, and how much more of that can you stand? What are the critical moments? What are the critical moments in your business? What is the hinge point, if you like, or the critical moments that you need to, just get rid of this window here, there we go. What is the critical point in time that's going to allow you to move forwards? Oops, Daisy, I think I might have just gotten rid of the window. There we go. And so on. So with risk-taking on the left-hand side there, risk-taking or calculating. So if we plot ourselves on each of these curves, so mental endurance, critical moments, risk-taking or calculating, and battle-ready or battle-hardened at the bottom of the grid there, where do you score yourself? So I'm an 8 on mental endurance. I'm a 3 at doing the right thing in critical moments. Battle readiness, I'm probably a 4. And risk-taking, I'm only a 2. So that's my situational pressure diagram. Just grab a pen, grab a paper, a bit of paper, and just score yourself on each of those 4 axes. How good is my mental endurance, given the current situation and given the pressure that everybody's under? How good am I making the right decision in a critical moment? How battle ready am I? And what does my risk taking look like? So write yourself, draw the little grid out and score yourself. See what's going on in the chat window. Angus, more LinkedIn surgeries online, which have been happening for a long time anyway. Yeah, increasing the volume is definitely going to help, Angus. I think you're right. Simon, flying by the seat of your pants. No written or followed plan. I think he's absolutely spot on. And many people living, flying by the seat of their pants right now. And we need to fix that. So just give you a couple of minutes to think about that. Mental endurance, critical moments, battle readiness, risk-taking. How do you feel you perform? So the top score is 40, obviously. So if you just put in the chat window what your overall score is once you've scored yourself. Giorgio, 27. Howard, 28. No, 26. Type your score in when you've added them up, guys. Are we finding the maths difficult? Or scoring ourselves? 28, 27, 26, 24. You are being humble, you're quite right, Alex. 26, Eddie. Good. So interesting that most of those are in the mid-20s, some approaching 30. So room for improvement, right? Some of that's about focus. Some of it's about mental endurance. Some of that's about meditation. Some of this is about I ams. Again, telling yourself that you're able to take calculated risks. Telling yourself you're a great decision maker at critical moments. Making sure that operationally your business is battle ready. A lot of that is about process and organization, and a lot of the things we talk about during the coaching process. Systemization, relying on those things. So if you look at that, the top one obviously is critically. Well, let's move on to the next slide because this will probably help. So obviously 10, 10, 10. So that's 40 points. Makes you the winner, makes you a nice large square there, and this is the way to think about this. So the greater the pressure, usually what you want is the bigger the score. So just like diamonds, winners are formed under massive amounts of pressure, and I think that's absolutely true. So how can I improve my mental endurance? How can I improve my thinking in critical moments? How can I improve my willingness or my ability to take risks, calculated risks, of course, and how battle ready is my business? If you're in the mid-20s, where is the gap? If it's in mental endurance, you need to think a little bit about meditation. You need to think a little bit about making sure that you're getting the right amount of sleep. You need to think about making sure you're exercising. All of those things are critical to mental endurance. They're also critical to critical moment thinking, the one on the right-hand side. So again, fitness, wellness, hydration, diet, exercise, all of those things have a massive impact. So if you're low on mental endurance or critical thinking on the right-hand side, those 5 things will definitely help to improve your ability to do that. Meditation is a very underrated pastime. Sitting quietly in a corner, reading, thinking, whatever else it might be, even if it's 10 minutes a day, has a massive positive impact on your well-being, worth thinking about. Battle ready and risk-taking, both of those things really are about the structure of your organization, the processes that you follow, how effective your systemization is, how effective your reporting is, and so on and so forth. So current situation, enormous amounts of pressure. If you're in the mid-20s, I'd like to see you get that to the mid-30s. How are we going to achieve that? What have we got to do to push that forwards? A really important piece of mindset, mental thought process. Again, if you're a current client, you're being coached by me, we'll have talked about this. This is the identity iceberg. Sitting at the top here, above that lovely wavy waterline, are the results that you get, which are a result of the actions you take and the decisions you make and the behavior that you elicit. So actions, decisions, behavior equal results. But beneath the water are all of these things. How skillful am I at managing my business in a crisis? What are my beliefs wrapped around developing my business in a crisis? What are my values? How do they spread across my team, my customers, my suppliers, the culture in the business, etc., etc.? Those things are hugely important. And what is my identity? What do I think of myself as? Guy out in here earlier in the week runs a print business. And freely admits he's a technician. He doesn't want to be out there selling his business. He doesn't want to be out there looking for investors. He wants to be on the tools doing the job on a day-to-day basis. That is his identity. How can he change that? He can change that by increasing his skills, changing his beliefs, and that will have an impact on his identity and the environment that he builds within the business. And all of those things drive to the top of the iceberg, which are the results. So your identity, values, belief, and skills drive your actions, decisions, and behaviors. Your environment drives the results. So think about that when you're thinking about the kind of situational pressure environment we find ourselves in now. Where am I lacking skill? Do my beliefs hold true with the business that I'm running and how I'm running it? What are the values that I spread throughout the business across the team and my suppliers and my customers? And what is my personal identity? Do I believe that I'm a survivor? Is one of my beliefs that I have the fight to get myself through this? Do my skills stretch as far as completing a really accurate cash flow forecast on a day-to-day basis to make sure I can get through this? All of those things added together end up at the top of the iceberg, the bits that people see, the actions, decisions, and behavior, again, that you elicit on a day-to-day basis. So identity iceberg, how you think about yourself, I am statements, mental clarity, health, crucial. So think about diet, exercise, meditation, hydration, all of those things hugely, hugely important, and all wrapped up in this whole, who do I see myself as? How do I think about things? Am I mentally ready? And so on and so forth. In a crisis, those are the things that are going to carry you through. Great. So let's just see where we are in terms of time. 10:15. Oops, talking for way too long there. Mindset is one of my favorite topics these days. I think I never really gave it due consideration prior to getting into coaching a few years ago, but it is hugely important in terms of the way you think about things, the way that you portray yourself, and your ability to achieve. So, right, so we're going to talk about the planning piece of the business now. This is getting into the nitty-gritty. So the plans that hopefully you've all got access to, you'll notice is a new format. It is a multi-tabbed Excel spreadsheet. And I'm just going to talk you through what that looks like. If you haven't got access to that, can you just let me know in the chat window? Giorgio, Miracle Morning. Yeah, that's a great book for mindset. Thank you for putting that in there. I'd completely forgotten about that book. I've not read that for a little while. I might pick that one up at the moment. How you set yourself up at the beginning of the day. I can tell you what mine looks like. Miracle Morning, 5 o'clock, get up. By 5:30, I've eaten, showered, walk the dogs, about an hour usually, 6:30, do a little bit of reading, I'm in the office, generally speaking by 8. And so that's my typical morning, and that gives me a chance then between 8 and 9, hopefully, to catch up on everything that I wanted to catch up on because I wrote my to-do list the night before, and then off I go and crack on with the day. Good. So I'm hoping you've all got access to that spreadsheet. The documents in that Dropbox folder. This is one of my favorite quotes. Starting with the end in mind. So 3 months from today, what do you want your business to look like? 3 months from today, what do you want to have achieved? 3 months from today, what does your staffing levels look like? What does your marketing look like? 3 months from today, what does your personal situation look like? So start with the end in mind, get a clear understanding of what your destination looks like, and then writing the plan is going to be a lot easier. So to know where you're going so that you can better understand where you are now and the steps you take are always in the right direction. Now, I said at the beginning, didn't I? A plan looks like it's a straight line. They never are. You're always going to weave in and out. There are always going to be situations that take you slightly off course. If, like I did, you wrote a 2020 plan, we're about as far off course as we could possibly be right now. And so the next 90 days for me are all about planning how we get back on track. How do I get back to the point that I wanted to be at by the end of June, end of July? That's what I'm working on personally. That's what I want you guys to work on as part of this planning process. So there are lots of tabs on this spreadsheet. As you can see, it is a 12-tab spreadsheet. Lots and lots of things on there. I don't want you to do the whole thing. What I want you to do is to focus on these few tabs. Tab 1, what went really well last quarter? What did I achieve in the last quarter? I don't need an exhaustive list, but I want your top 3 achievements. So on that page of the spreadsheet, just 5 minutes on what did I achieve last quarter. Don't do this now, by the way. Pay attention while I'm talking. We'll get to the spreadsheet and filling it in a second. Tab 3, personal goal, 10 minutes. What do I want to achieve in the next 90 days from a personal point of view? How am I going to get there, etc. Tab 4, the primary business goal. This is your must achieve business goal. 15 minutes. Tab 5, your secondary business goal. Tab 6, your third business goal. I'd like you to get 3 if you can, but if you only end up with tab 4 and the must achieve business goal, I'm happy with that now. But think about what the following 2 could be. Don't edit tab 7 because that populates automatically from the previous tabs. So there's a whole bunch of links in there which will allow you to see a summary of everything that you put in tab 3, 4, 5, and 6 on the page in tab 7. And tab 8 to 12, don't edit. Just leave those alone. So anyone you worry about, achievements, tab 1, personal goals, tab 3, must achieve biz goal 2, biz goal 3. And here is a quick view of what that looks like. So this is the success review last quarter. Personal goal, must achieve biz goal 2, biz goal 3. This one populates automatically. Ignore this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. We'll come to those later on. So that first tab, quarterly achievements, is a little screenshot of it. So what were my key achievements? Why did I misspell attribute in the middle there? I've just noticed. What do you do? What do you attribute your success to? So why did you achieve that? And then is there a follow-up action to getting there? So key achievements last quarter, one of my clients implemented a brand new MIS system. What do you attribute your success to? You brought in an external contractor to help him achieve that. And further action, any specific points? Yes, implementation needs to be continued to get the best out of the system. But that's a really key phase for them. Got another client that's just hired 2 senior leaders to run their internet security division. Key achievement, hiring those 2 leaders. What was the success? Spent a long time looking and doing group interviews and other things in order to get the right person in the right role. What's the further action? Make sure they issue KPIs, make sure they embody the culture of the business, and make sure they're able to get along with the development team. That's another part of their business. Celebrating your wins is really important. That's part of what this is about. It's very easy to forget all the great stuff you did last quarter and kind of skip past it. So I'd like you to make sure you recognize yourself and your team for the things that you achieved last quarter, but to understand why they were successful and to make sure you follow up. So as it says on the top right there, your performance is exclusively in your hands. The habit of achieving your goals is the best habit you can develop. Reflect and identify your 6 biggest achievements of the last quarter. You've got 5 minutes, so it doesn't need to be 6 things. If you can get 2 or 3 things in there, I would be very happy with that. Good, so that's the quarterly achievements tab. So here is the 90-day goal planning must achieve business goal tab. So just a quick view of this. If you came to GrowthClub last time, we talked a lot about SMART goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. I've changed the spreadsheet slightly. Same rules apply, but ask 5 key questions on the right-hand side there. So what is the goal? Top line. How will you measure it? What do you want to achieve by it? What will it mean to you? I would like a bit of emotion here. If you've got it, what will it mean to you to achieve that goal? Well, that's a massive sigh of relief because I can promote Wendy to sales manager, whatever else that might look like. And then the reality, what's holding you back and what is the situation now? So again, I'm trying to promote a bit of thought here about where you want to get to, what's the problem with getting there, and then write your goals in the segment below. Must achieve, business goals, actions and descriptions. Oops, another typo. And then when those things will happen. Sorry, question in the question box. Bear me 1 second. Beer delivery has arrived. I've got to go and help unload. So Alex has just shot off to go and accept the beer delivery at the pub. Not a problem. We talked about interruptions. Keep those to a minimum. Beer comes quite high up in my priority list, so we're okay with that. So this is the must achieve business goal sheet. Okay, so that's the intro to planning. We talked about the tabs that I would like you to be able to complete, what's required to do those, and I've given you a time scale for each tab, so try to stick to it, because when we come back after the coffee break, we've got 1 hour to crack those 90-day plans, personal and business. So as Alex has run off, we are going to take 10 minutes now, and then we'll give ourselves a little bit longer to complete the spreadsheet. So it's 10:25. So let's just give him an extra 5 minutes. So we can come back in 14 minutes at 22. The connection will stay live. Leave yourself connected, and let's go and grab a cup of coffee and a natural break, if that's okay. Dan, do you have the link for the spreadsheet? Simon's gone off on a beer break as well. So yes, Dan, I'll send it to you in a second. Anybody else need the link to the spreadsheet? Okay, good. Back in 14 minutes, 13 minutes. Thank you. Is that in trouble?
Yeah, no, it's still just irritating me. It will go shortly.
The link for the Dropbox. Did I give it to you?
Yeah, I've been sending it this morning. I haven't asked for it.
Did you? You sent it to Dan?
Dan, yeah. Oh, it's the door at the end of the corridor shut. Will it be on?
Is there nobody in? Oh no, it shouldn't be on now. No, because they turn it off when they come in the shop as well.
Fine,
so yeah, it should be okay. Yeah, good question.
So I'll just wait till you have a break if I need to nip out this door.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I'll get you a coffee in a minute.
I'd love one, yes, please. Great question from Giorgio. The success tab is successes, personal, business, whatever. If you mix them up and you can get 6 in total, happy days. But yeah, personal or business, Giorgio, good question. Okay, another 6 minutes, boys and girls, if you're available and still listening. And then we're going to get into the 90-day plans. My lovely picture of a coffee cup didn't appear. Don't know why. I went to get the drill this morning, put this hanging on the board, and Ed had been using it to put his gazebo up yesterday. I have no idea where. And then he came to me and he said, I don't know when he wants to confess something because we'll have a little chat, which he doesn't normally do. So when I was in the garage yesterday, God, it's just what he said. So it's okay. It's in a big box with a flip on plastic lid. Sometimes I open it upside down. So 80 sockets and little end pieces and what have you. And the garage is full of all of this stuff. You can't move in this. I crawled around my hands and knees for 20 minutes trying to find it, and couldn't find it all. Oops.
Did he not pick it up for you?
He did. He found as much of it as he could.
Oh,
Bless him. Great. So just another 4 minutes, and then we'll get back on it. Great. Hopefully you've got your coffee. Hopefully you've got your beer, Alex. Okay, back in 2 minutes. Thanks for completing the poll, by the way. I don't know when that appeared on your screen, but I kept clicking the button, so it did at some point or another, because everybody looks like, well, not everybody, but the vast majority of you have voted, which is good. If you just let me know you're back in the chat box, that would be very helpful. The poll appeared just before the break. Thank you, Simon. Nice to know it works. I'll figure out why it was a bit delayed a bit later on. So cool. Alex, are you back? Okay, so here we go. So the intention here, as you can see, so we had a coffee break, and then so there is an hour now for 90-day plans. We've broken that hour up into segments. So I won't leave you hanging without any conversation. I'll keep diving back in and asking questions. If you've got something specific you need help with, pop it in the chat box, and I will, and I'll obviously respond. So post this hour, we're then going to spend a few minutes looking at, again, how to get from panic to plan, what that looks like, default diary, and cash flow forecasting, because both those things are critically important to everybody in business, and a key part at this particular point in time. So, so let's hop forwards. So we've got 1 hour to focus on this. So if you take tab 1, the achievements tab, we've got 5 minutes to focus on getting those achievements in per Giorgio's question just before the break. These can be personal achievements and business achievements. These are achievements that you have successfully completed in the last 3 months. I'd like 6. That's a fair amount of writing, but make sure you focus, even if you get 2 in there, make sure you focus on all 3 columns, and try and get something in writing in all 3 of those. That would be great. So let's kick that off. It is 18 minutes to, so I'll give you 5 minutes to complete tab 1, the achievements tab. I'll be back. Of course, I called it the Achievements tab. It's actually named the Success Review tab, so apologies for that. But you can see the one which has got quarterly achievements on it. Two minutes to go. Hey, that's fine, Alex. No problem. Have you? You should have the spreadsheets in that Dropbox link that came out to everybody yesterday. Did you send that? Did you resend Alex the Dropbox link, Joe?
Everybody had it, but I sent it again.
Yeah, when did you send it? Yesterday.
No, this morning. No, what yesterday? Yes, that one.
Yeah. So yesterday, Alex, you should have had it in an email.
I'll do it now.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Giorgio, setting goals. I understand the challenge. I think everybody struggles with it. So we'll talk through that a little bit as we get into that segment. This is really focused a lot more this time, probably on practical planning than it is on far-reaching goals. So I can definitely help with yours. Great. So there's a couple of people just finishing up, and Dan's just on his way to help Alex with that spreadsheet. So if you can see this whiteboard, so that little poll that we ran right at the beginning there, how much panic is the current pandemic creating in your business? Loads, 67%. So almost 70% of you. None, 22%. I'm guessing insured from the current pandemic, and what virus, 15%. So there are at least 3 or 4 of you with a sense of humor, so thanks for that. That's probably pretty typical of the client base that I have on a daily basis and the people I talk to on a daily basis about where they are with the whole thing. Some of it's about the not knowing. Some of it's about orders not appearing when they're supposed to. Some of it's about contracts not being completed. So lots and lots of things in there. Emotional things, practical things, strategic things that everybody's got to be able to deal with at some point in time. So let's just bear that in mind as we go through, because the people you're talking to, your customers, you probably have exactly the same level of panic amongst those. And creating a plan, as we said right at the beginning, is the way to find your way through all of that. So, okay, so that's time's up on your on the first tab, the success tab, which has got your personal achievements in it. We're going to move to the personal goals tab now, which is tab 3, and on tab 3, 10 minutes. Find the right tab on here. So think about the questions on the right hand side. Okay, so what is the goal? Let's just say it's to get 8 hours sleep every night for the next 90 days. How will you measure it? Well, I'll measure it by knowing what time I go to bed and what time I get up. Why do you want to achieve this? To improve the quality of my health and my focus on my work goals. Might be the why. What will it mean to you? That'll make you very happy. Okay, good. What's holding you back and what's the situation now? I tend to stay up too late watching rubbish on the TV, or I get up too early because the dog barks or the baby wakes or whatever else it might be. How can you resolve those things in terms of getting you to achieve your goal? So write your personal goal action descriptions down in the box on the left-hand side in number 1. Who's going to achieve them? Of course, it's you in this particular case. This is a personal goal. And then what do you want to see progress by? So it might be that in the first week, you want to get 6 hours a night. And in the second week, you want to get 6.5 hours a night, and so on and so forth. So just calibrate yourself and try to figure that out. If you could focus on a goal like making sure I get 8 hours sleep every night, then within that 3-month period, you absolutely will achieve it. Writing the goal down is the first step. So 10 minutes, so bang on the hour, we'll come back and have a further conversation. Personal goals, 10 minutes. I'd like 3 as a minimum, if you can. If you can do more than that, great. Some examples: sleeping better, losing weight, getting fit, doing the garden, walking the dog, a whole bunch of things that you want to weave into your daily life that are important to you from a personal perspective. Hope that makes sense. 9 minutes. And ping a question in the question box, in the chat box, if you have something you want me to help you with. Okay, the chat box is very quiet, so I'm assuming on that basis you're all battling away, getting your personal goals written, which is great. So Howard, if there's more than one personal goal, then just use the boxes down on the left-hand side. So personal goal, action descriptions. You'll need to repeat the personal goal box. I guess I'm sorry, I must have missed that. There's only a single box there, isn't there? What is the goal? How will you measure it? Yeah, so I guess you can just duplicate the tab, Howard, is probably the easiest way. Duplicate the tab and create a second personal goal tab. Great stuff. So 4 minutes, 4 minutes to go. If you've completed it already, just give me a thumbs up in the chat box, just to let me know that your personal goal is clear and detailed, and you have a timeline in there for actions. Wow, it's not the end of the world. The sun has come out, so you're okay. We're going to survive. Okay, just a couple of minutes left on personal goal. Remarkably, everybody's managed to stay connected, which is great. So this is a brand new webinar version of Zoom that I haven't used before, which is why you got the revised link this morning. That seems remarkably stable, which is great. Yeah, Georgia's just put a comment in about positivity in the news. None of the news media ever broadcast the recovery rate. They only broadcast the infected and death rate on the coronavirus. So that would be a really interesting number to see, wouldn't it? Thanks for that, Giorgio. Good spot. Great. So a minute left on personal goals. Just give me a thumbs up in the chat box when you've completed that. Need at least half of you to have completed the personal goals bit before we move on. Hi, Chloe. Yeah, thanks for your question. I would agree. Yeah, work goals, which are personal to you, absolutely fine. And again, the same format is true across each of those tabs. So whether it's personal, must achieve, or business, the questions are the same style. So yeah, feel free to adapt that to fit you. Thanks, Eddie. Good. So so time's up on that first segment, almost. Alex is halfway. Not writing fast enough, Alex. Or might you've been on the beer, haven't you? Okay, so it's 11 o'clock. So we're gonna go to the next tab, which is the Must Achieve tab. So this is the first of 3 business goals we're looking for. So this is the detail on here is all about your must achieve goal. So what is it that you absolutely and totally must achieve in the next 3 months? That might be to make a profit. That might be to retain all your staff. It might be to develop a new marketing plan. It might be to launch a new product. It might be you know, whatever else that is. Your absolutely #1 must achieve goal. So just going back to your goals, Giorgio, I would suggest your must achieve goal is to launch your franchise in the next 3 months. What is the goal? How will you measure it? Why do you want to achieve it? What will it mean to you? And what's stopping you from doing it now? Writing all those things down, getting all those things in the spreadsheet will make an enormous difference. So So must achieve goals, that is tab 4, and we're going to go for 15 minutes on this one, so until 15:15. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. The single most important goal in your business, what you want to achieve, and thank you, David. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Great stuff. So 15 minutes, we'll go to 15:15. Think about it. The detail here is really important. The timeline is really important. The emotion in this is really important. So what will it mean to you to achieve this goal? I think is absolutely critical. So get typing. If you get stuck or have any questions, don't forget, just pop them in the chat box and we will deal with those. No, John, you're okay. No, no requirement for that. So just stick to the current tab, and we'll use the electronic version for the next quarter. Thanks. Great, so we're 8 minutes in, another 7 minutes to go. Hopefully you're all cracking through that. Again, when you've completed that tab, if you would just give me a thumbs up in the box, that would be great. Hey Sarah, thanks for your question. Yeah, we can talk about that later. Yeah. Yeah, we'll do it on a call, thanks. Okay, so 4 minutes to go. Hopefully you're on track. Nobody fallen off the wagon. Everybody's still connected. No questions, which is good. So just a reminder, this is your must have or must achieve business goal. On tab 4, the one that if nothing else happened, this is the goal that you would hit. I think is absolutely crucial. Getting those steps right and the timescale right in the Gantt chart is crucial. Okay, coming to the last minute. Give me a thumbs up when you've completed that segment, if you would. That's your must achieve biz goal. Thanks, David. Thanks, Howard. Good work. That's a bit of a change from last time, Howard. Very speedy. Great stuff. Thank you, Paul, Alex. Great stuff. Thank you, Chloe, Giorgio, Simon. Perfect. All good stuff. Great. So, one personal goal, 3 business goals. Your must achieve business goal, followed by your secondary and your third. If you have 3, fabulous. If you have 5, let's just worry about 3. If you have 1, I'd like to squeeze a second one out of you. What is it? What does it look like? And can you give it the same amount of attention you've given to your must achieve biz goal from the point of view of detail? And if we just go back to the things to think about, again, be absolutely clear how you're going to measure this goal. So quite often it's easy to set yourself a goal, but put no KPIs in, no measurements in, no steps in to recognize how you're making progress along that path for your goal. Why you want to achieve it, that's the part of the emotion, and what will it mean to you to achieve it, again, I think is a really critical piece of thinking. If you can't tell me or tell yourself why you want to achieve it and what it will mean to you when you achieve it, it's probably not the right goal. And the reality segment underneath that, what is holding you back and what is the situation now, I think again is a key part of trying to drill right in and make sure that this is the goal, that one was your must achieve biz goal, that this next one is your second priority. And again, we're going to go for 15 minutes on the second one. I'm pleased and impressed there aren't a million questions. Hopefully that's because the spreadsheet is really clear. But please, if you have got any questions, just ask. If we can get to the end of the next 2 segments and you've all completed your 3 goals, then that will be a massive win for me and for you. And I think we'll set you up in really good stead. So let's go on the next tab, which is entitled Biz Goal 2. Again, make sure you complete all of the detail and make sure you ask yourself the appropriate questions. This is your second most important 90-day goal with all of the detail and the timeline attached to it. So we're going to go for 30 minutes and then Alex, that is a very great question. Is it just me? Every problem I'm facing is basically due to COVID. It is a repeat problem, and it is a repeat problem overall. So you're addressing there, Alex, just for everybody's delectation, you're addressing the problem. So what is the goal? So if the goal is to make sure that your staff are all engaged at the end of 30 days, or the goal is to make sure the pub's still open at the end of 90 days, how are we going to achieve that? What are the steps to generate it? So I completely and totally get the problem is coronavirus, COVID-19 related. That's pretty much where 70% of the marketplace is coming from today. But what I'm interested in, what you're interested in, is what is the goal that's going to move you through the next 90 days and get you to be successful. So your must achieve biz goal might simply be, or might simply have been, to make sure that we make a profit at the end of the next 90 days, even if it's £1. If that's the goal, what are you going to do to achieve that? And then it's all of the action. So it's the marketing you're doing, it's the change in business strategy that you're doing with things like your bottled cocktails, your deliveries, and so on and so forth. That's the reality of the achievement for the goal, which is, as I say, make £1 profit at the end of the next 90 days. Does that help? Hopefully that helps, Alex. Okay, good. Good. Yeah, and of course, what I should add for everybody's delectation is Alex has got two businesses. Alex and Dan have got two businesses to worry about. One which is very much out and about and visiting consumers, and the other is very much in the pub and having consumers come in. So a lot of your challenge, I think, Alex, is about communicating the safety and the care with which you're delivering both of those services. And so it might be that goal 2 is a marketing strategy which is just focused on delivering that message. So great questions. Great questions. Hopefully that's useful for everybody on the call. We know what the cause is. What we're after is the goal that's going to get us past that. So. In answer to your question, Simon, I would say that recalibrating my 5 ways is probably the goal, or increasing the pipeline and conversion rate in order to generate more profit. I would probably include those as one goal, I think, Simon, unless the strategy to achieve each is different. And I guess to some extent it is, isn't it? Because one's marketing, pipeline, and one's conversion rate, which is sales. You probably need to decide where you're most comfortable with that. If you've got 3 goals and one of them is pipeline and one's conversion rate and the other one's something else, I would split them. And Howard, must achieve goal is your, I don't think I'm going to pick that up. How do I set up the timeline? So if you're looking for a timeline for the goals which are not primary, Howard, I think is your question. I would just take the dates out that leave the 90 days, so that at the point when you're in a position to start those, that still covers the next 90 days. Or you insert it at the point in the timeline where you think some of the pressure is going to be relieved and you can get on with them. So that might be 8 weeks out, for example. And then you can step forward for the next 4 weeks in this plan, and then there'll be another growth club and you can do the next segment of it. Hopefully that makes sense. Paul. Great comment on Greg's. As an example of communications, Greg's have sent a couple of great emails out to their customers the last few days to show how they will stay open, including COVID plans in some detail. So again, that's what we were talking about right at the very beginning when we were talking about positive communication, or 2 things, communication and being positive. So I think the more of a positive spin we can put on this, the better, and getting that communication right and positioning it right, whether it's an email or it's social media or it's whatever else, is a key piece of it. And I'd be surprised if most of us don't have a marketing goal in there to deliver exactly that, or a communications goal to deliver exactly that. And what is the timeline? When are you going to tick off those things? Who are you going to speak to? Great opportunity to do some local radio if you of a mind to do that. how are we surviving the current coronavirus challenge? Might be one for the pub, for example. And the answer is we're doing these 15 things, these steps. If you look in my crisis management document folder that we shared a link for the other day, in there is a 20-step document, which includes pretty much everything that you need to think about to work your way through this process. There will be a webinar on that on Tuesday on the 20 steps. We did the 11 steps, which are kind of the basic. The 20 steps now is the detail. That's the next phase. But that document is in there. Use that to help craft your communication out to your customers, to your suppliers, to the local community, and so on. So yeah, thanks for that, Paul. I think that's key, and hopefully, Howard, that helps. Okay, so we're just about halfway through that second one. I'm just going to disappear for a natural break. I'll give you a view out the window rather than a view of me. You can look at some sunshine for a few minutes. Okay, we've got 5 minutes. 5 minutes left on your second goal. And that just leaves us with one to go, which is goal 3. Great stuff. So last couple of minutes. Hopefully you're all you're all done. Give me a thumbs up when you're there, and you've got that goal 2 and that detail down and the timeline completed. The timeline is really important. Obviously, who's doing it, but also making sure we know when you'll do it. And if these are done properly, this is the the output from this is really coaching for the next 3 months. Is helping you to get through all of these steps, through all of these stages, and achieve the things that you want to be able to achieve. The year is broken up into 4 segments on that basis, and it's really easy to work your way through. So Simon, who does a lot of these long-term business plans, is on the line. 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1-year goals, happy days. But you've got to break those down to something which is chunkable, and 3 months is kind of the recognised achievable goal without it being too far in the distance that you can't see it. So I have a particular client who does 100-day sprints for everybody in the company. They all have 100-day goals. They all have 100-day KPIs. They get to the end of that point and then they rush on through. It breaks all my spreadsheets because mine are 90 days. But hey ho, it works for them. So happy days. Okay, last minute. Give me a thumbs up when goal 2 is done. Biz goal 2 on the Excel file, and you're all happy. You've got the detail there that you need. Giorgio, you coping okay with business goal 2? And obviously at the end of this, I'd like copies of your Excel file so I can have a look and just make sure that we are that I'm on the same page as you guys from an ongoing coaching perspective. So yes, I know that should be Giorgio. Speaking of positivity. Great, well done, Eddie. Paul, looks like you're done. David, well done. Like the look of your Mac, by the way, David. Well done, Chloe. Thank you, Howard. Excellent. Good stuff. A couple more, just waiting for. We're bang on past. So again, for those of you that we did this slightly differently the last time, where we did a breakout session where everybody went off for a couple of hours and wrote their plans. There's a well-recognized scenario, particularly from a coaching standpoint, where if you create a vacuum, you create a space, stuff automatically fills it. And so what we're doing here is we're giving you an hour broken down into small chunks to achieve small chunks. You're much more likely to complete the work in that period than you are if I sent you off with a blank workbook for 2 hours to sit in another room. This is time-bound, vacuum-filled exercise that keeps you focused on what it is you've got to achieve. So I'm pleased that we look like we've got 70% of you all completed in 15 minutes. That's amazing. Okay, so we are going to move on to Biz Goal 3. This is the last one on the workbook. If you can, again, give that real consideration. Your must achieve goal is the one that we absolutely want you to nail this quarter. Biz Goal 2 is the second most important. Biz Goal 3 doesn't make it unimportant, but it is the least important of the 3. But it's still significant enough that you want to create a timeline for it, and you want to put actions on there, and you want to have somebody recognized for being able to achieve that. And there may be multiple people in your business that are helping you to achieve those goals. If you're a one-man business, again, it all falls down to you, but it might be external contractors or consultants or people you know that are helping you to achieve those things. So make sure you get all of those down in the timeline underneath. And again, just to repeat myself, what is the goal? How are you going to measure it? Why do you want to achieve it? Critical question. If you can't answer why you want to achieve it and what it'll mean to you, then it probably isn't a significant enough goal. What will it mean to me? It'll relieve all the pressure on my administration for the next few months. Why? Because I'm going to hire a VA to do all of that work for me. Okay, so what's the timeline? Well, I'm going to have a look this week. I'm going to put somebody in place next week. I'm doing interviews next week, put somebody in place in week 3, and so on. You get the idea. And also think about what's holding you back. So why is this a goal now if it wasn't a goal before? Has there been something that's been holding you back and preventing you from achieving that goal, or that has put you in the situation that you're in where this has become a goal? So again, recognizing those stages is really, really important. So business goal 3, I've talked for 2 minutes, apologies for that, 13 minutes to go. Let's see if we can crack business goal 3. Does everybody have a business goal 3? Just type in the chat box if you would. That would be great. Great, thanks Howard, Eddie, Paul. Yeah, brilliant. Good, okay. Let's do it, 12 minutes. Great, about halfway through. Hopefully you're making suitable progress.
Useful before we dive to the mouth. You're just too efficient.
Great stuff. So just 5 minutes to go. Anybody struggling with the third one? Well practiced after doing the first two, I'm sure. Eddie Gerard, you are my favourite client. You're the only person, only man in the world I know that, having been asked to do 3 business goals, can do 7. So, congratulations. Great, last 3 minutes. If you've finished, give me a thumbs up. That would be great. Great. Last minute or so, give me a thumbs up when you've done so we know you're complete. That would be amazing. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Eddie. So if you completed the cells in the spreadsheet and you take a quick glance at the 90-day plan tab, which is tab 7, all of your goals, actions and timelines will have all populated on that one page. And that just makes it really easy to see your personal and your business goals all in one place. Thanks, Chloe, Howard, good stuff. Right, so it's 11:45, almost. So we're going to move on to the next segment. So we're in the last kind of 15 minutes now of me sitting here talking at you. Obviously, there's work to continue after this, and you know when we finish at 12 o'clock, if you haven't completed the goals and there's a bit more extra work to do, I would absolutely encourage you to hang on for another half an hour or 45 minutes to get those completed, and then send me the Excel spreadsheet this afternoon. That would be amazing, so I can just read through those and make sure nobody's missed the trick and we're all on the same page. That would be great. So on the screen you can see tab 7 populates automatically. That's your 90-day plan, all on one page. Again, I think really important, so you're not flicking backwards and forwards between tabs. Print it, stick it on the wall over your desk, so that it's there in your face. The next tab along is called Test and Measure. The Test and Measure tab is there for marketing activities. Now, I'm not going to spend any time on it today because I think the planning is the most important piece, but this is a really simple way of tracking marketing expense and KPIs, how many leads you generate. So Simon, one of the things you mentioned there was lead generation and conversion. This tab, the Test and Measure tab, is a really interesting way of doing that. And you can track it week by week, strategy by strategy, and it gives you great feedback, tells you how much you've spent in order to return how much money. So Test and Measure tab, you don't have to use it, but if you want to, it's a great thing to do. We will focus on it at some point in the next few months, I'm sure. So next tab along is the default diary template. So on the screen now you should be able to see the default diary template. That's on tab 9. Again, some of you will have used this. I am really keen on making sure that we understand how much of your time is being proactively and positively used and not wasted. I'm not suggesting you're doing that consciously, but unconsciously it's really easy to drift, particularly, as we said earlier, when there's a crisis going on, when there's a bit of a panic going on. It's easy to default to the easy stuff or the stuff that's actually not going to pay the bills. And so this default diary template is about as easy as it gets. 15-minute blocks through the day, 7 days a week, fill it in. At 6:15, I was in the gym. At 6:45, I was having coffee. At 7 o'clock, I started work. At 7:15, I spent an hour and a half on Facebook, scrolling through utter and complete nonsense, and so on. So keep it up. You do it for a couple of weeks. From a mindset point of view, as we talked about mindset earlier on, it does really help to put you in a place where you go, okay, I know consciously I'm doing that, and that is of no benefit to my business on a day-to-day basis. Stop doing that, do this. Write it down, keep your timesheets, very, very valuable information. And if you have a team or a partner who's working in the business or otherwise, default diary template should be used by everybody. If you want to instill a bit of a habit in yourself, might be reading for 15 minutes, or it might be exercising for half an hour. Put it in your default diary. Write it in here so that you know that at 6:15 every morning you're in the gym. So you know that at 5:15 every night you write your to-do list. So you know that at 12:30 you've stopped for lunch for half an hour every day. Put it in your default diary and run it every week ad infinitum. If you're running an Outlook calendar or something else, put it in your diary and run it all the way through for the next 50 years. And then that pops up in your diary and it becomes a habit. And habits, once they're reinforced over the first, depends on who you listen to, 12 weeks, 15 times, 30 days, whatever else it might be, becomes something that you do on a regular basis. So really, really important. Default diary is probably one of the most underutilized tools by most people that I know. My favorite question is, how are you? And somebody goes, busy. Oh, I hate that answer. We're all busy in here. We're busy because we're not spending the right time on the right activity during our working day. So think about that default diary and get it to be productive, proactive work that you know is going to contribute to the success of the business. So there's a template in there. You don't have to use that one, obviously. But if you were to start using that default diary template and run that for the next 90 days, if you can, at the end of it, you'll have learned an enormous number of lessons. Now, at the bottom of that template, if you look at the tab, you'll see that there are some categories: personal, lunch breaks, admin, emails, exercise, learning, sales, marketing, etc. So you can use this to tell you how many hours a day you spend on sales, for example, or how long you spend on lunch breaks during the week. So it's a really nice tally tool to help you recognize where you're performing and where you're underperforming. So default diary template, really, really important. Discipline, next tab along. Depends on who you are, right? So I'm not very disciplined. It's very easy for me to get distracted, which is why I love the default diary. It's very easy for me to kind of ignore something which I know is important and scoot past it. So self-discipline begins with mastery of what's going on up here, mastery of what's going on in your head. If you can't control what you think, you can't control what you're doing. So simple self-discipline enables you to think first and act afterwards. So if you look at that tab, you'll see that down the left-hand side, there are 3 disciplines. And on the right-hand side, every day I will commit to doing. What are your bad habits? What are the good habits you'd like to gain? What are the thought processes that derail you? Think about what it is from a discipline point of view that you need to master over the next 3 months. Get them in the left-hand column, and then make a commitment in the right-hand column to what it is you're going to do to help you control your thoughts, control your actions, think first and act later. Really important piece of, again, mindset, making sure that we're all focused on the same, that you're focused on the same end goal. Self-discipline, mastery of your thoughts, a plan, a team that work effectively. That is a perfect scenario for getting a business to run about as perfectly as you could possibly want it to be. So we said we'd talk about those 2 things. Now there are 2 more tabs, letter to self and quarters focus. Now letter to self is something that they do every time we go on a training course at Action Coach. You write a letter to yourself, which you hand back to the instructor, and they post it to you 3 months later. And it's just a reminder that I said I was going to do that. Did I achieve it? Well, when the letter arrives, you go, oh my God, no, I didn't. And after a little while, the regularity of these things start to seep through, and it plants it up here, and you go, okay, so I've written that in the letter. I know that my target now is to do blah, blah, blah. And during the next 3 months, I achieved that. And then when the letter arrives, I can go, whoa, happy days, I did it. Look at that, amazing. So connected to discipline and connected to habit and connected to planning and goal setting and actions, action coach, right? Not think about coach. Make sure that we do. Writing a letter to yourself is a really interesting thing to do. And lastly, quarter focus is an adaptation of the focus sheets that many of you use when you're being coached by me, but it's something for you to do for yourself, just to keep tabs on what it is you're doing each week. It's the detail behind the detail that's in your plan. Again, feel free to use it if you want to, but no requirement to do so. Oops. Okay, we're in the last 6 minutes now. So I want to talk about cash flow. At a time in crisis when, you know, potentially sales are doing this and costs are doing this, costs are level, sales are dipping, you absolutely need to make sure that you have a handle on where every penny is going. VAT bill is impending. PAYE bill needs to be settled. Insurance for the company. Repayments on a loan. Paying salaries, etc., etc. All of those things are massively important. I can tell you that of the last 100 people I spoke to, where I asked the question, what does your cash flow forecast look like? 70% of them don't have one. That is a really bad situation to be in. It's no good looking at your bank balance to see what your cash flow looks like, because tomorrow your mortgage payment might go out of it and there's nothing left in it. So you need to know when the money is coming into your business and when the money is going out of your business. And that's what a cash flow forecast is all about. If I'm teaching you to suck eggs, I apologize, but we have a big mixture of people on here, small to large organizations. So what I'm showing you on the screen is a bit of software called Float, F-L-O-A-T, Float app. And what Float does is it looks at your online banking, your online accounts management tool, QuickBooks, Xero, Sage Line 50, to just name 3, and it builds for you from all of the invoices you've got in your system, from all of the bills that you've got to pay, from all of the invoices raised that are unpaid. It builds a dashboard for you that tells you whether you've got any money in the bank in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks time. It's absolutely crucial that you have visibility of that. Now, some of my clients do that in a spreadsheet where an invoice comes in, they put it in the spreadsheet, and then they look to see what their bank balance is going to be in 3 days' time or 4 days' time. I'm a bit of a neophyte. I'm not a fan of doing that. I am a fan of using the technology where I possibly can. And so this tool for me is absolutely amazing. So this is just a random screen grab of something that Float have in their demonstration package. But if I whiz you through it really quickly, you can see here that during March, this company, whoever they were, this is their cash flow. You can see it dips down here quite low and then it starts to climb. As of today, their cash flow, if this was live, you'd be able to hold your mouse over here and it would tell you how much it was going to be in the bank. But it tells you now that the lowest cash point for this company over the next 3 months, assuming sales do what they're supposed to, and assuming that invoices are paid when they're supposed to be paid, have a lowest cash point of almost £20,000. Invoices overdue, bills overdue, current month progress. This is a brilliant tool for managing your business in much more detail than just looking at what's in your bank account. Got a chat message there. Thank you, Simon. Float are currently running a 60-day trial. If anybody wants to have a look at it, I am a Float agent, so if you want to have a play with it, I can set you up. You get 20% discount off the normal Float fee, and I just pass that on to you at cost. Really easy to use, really easy to link up, and if you click on each one of these tabs, it gives you the detail. Which invoices are due? Click here. Which bills to pay? Click here. But in a dashboard and not in a detailed way, like something like Xero or Xero or QuickBooks will do for you. So a brilliant tool. I'm not trying to sell Float to you. What I'm trying to sell to you is the importance of having a cash flow forecast. Knowing how much money is in your bank account at any point in time is fine, but knowing what it looks like in the future is absolutely critical. So to use some examples we talked about during the presentation this morning, VAT, 2-month payment holiday on option from HMRC for those affected by the coronavirus. That's pretty much all of us. You can phone them up and say, I want to delay my payments by 2 months. They say yes. You move your VAT payment in your QuickBooks, sorry, in your Float app to 2 months out. That changes your bank balance and it reforecasts it for the future. Extend those loan payments. Offer a 2% discount for early payments on any invoices out there. All of those things you can feed into here, and this will tell you what your cash looks like. Brilliant, brilliant tool. So cash flow forecasting is kind of the last hurrah in terms of all of that stuff we've talked about earlier on. Get your goals set, get your action plan in place, get your communication strategy, get your all of the other detail from the coronavirus presentation I did right at the very beginning. But the end result of all of that should be, what does my cash flow look like? Am I going to be in business? Can I afford to pay that bill? Can I afford to keep my staff on? Really key question. Cash flow forecast will tell you how much money you've got. So a critical piece of what everybody needs to look at, think about and do. Oops. Okay, so I kind of feel like most of you have waded your way through those plans, and most of you have probably got that Excel file completed, which is great. There are, as I said, some optional things that you can complete there if you want to. If you haven't completed it, I would encourage you not to go and turn your phone back on, not to go and jump in the car, but to spend another half an hour or 45 minutes getting it completed so you're happy with it. If you're happy with it, I'm going to be happy with it. But I would like you to share the Excel with me, email it to me so I can take a look at those. I'd like nothing better this weekend than spending 2 days looking at 30 Excel files. But it's really important to me that you guys have got a proper goal-driven strategy for the next 3 months so that we know that you're going to fight your way through the whole COVID-19 panic that's going on currently. Started at the beginning from panic to plan. Hopefully, we've settled some of those nerves that there might have been in the beginning. We haven't pushed any of the consumer panic out there that's going away, but communication, positivity, getting a plan in place, setting your goals, putting a timescale to it, monitoring your cash flow. If you can do all of that, then you're going to be around in 3 months' time, and we can hopefully find our way back to normality. So 12:01, I'm done. Does anybody else have any questions? Stick it in the chat if you do. And let's see if there's anything we need to do to wrap up. You should get a poll notification. You should get a poll notification after this, just to report on the quality of the webinar. I might have you please fill it in just to make sure that everybody knows what's going on. That's brilliant. So there's a couple of questions in the chat. Howard, where are you seeing the 60-day trial? I can only see 14 days. Simon, do you have any more info on the 60-day trial? Is it available online? Do you have to ring them? What's the situation? Simon's just going to have a quick check. Paul, really useful session. Thanks, Simon. Yeah, well, great to have you all on. I think, I'm massively disappointed we didn't get to run this at Shendish. I always enjoy those days. It's great to physically interact, and see the whites of people's eyes. This is the fourth Growth Club I've done now. The next one might end up being the same, just simply because of circumstances, but I hope not. I hope we'll be back at Shendish or somewhere similar to do the next one. And if that's the case, then happy days. Simon, just on that float thing, if you send it to me, I'll forward it on to Howard. If you find out what the solution is, and then we can put that one to bed. Otherwise, awesome. Send me your plans. Please send me your plans this weekend or later on today, and I'll have a quick look. And appreciate your time. Hope you found it useful. Take it easy. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, thanks, Eddie. Cheers, Giorgio. If you need some time with Jo, just make sure you send her a note. With me, send Jo a note. Thanks ever so much. Take it easy.